Welcome to the Weekly Sadakaion program organized by Quantum Meditation Society, London. Today, we are talking about something that is absolutely fundamental to quantum, to anyone who is interested in meditation, and to our experience of life. Every aspect of it, just how we feel about life in general, how much we are able to succeed, how our relationships are, all of that is influenced by this one thing, and that is our ability to focus, to concentrate, to give 100% of our attention, to be fully present in what it is that we're doing at the moment. It's not news to many of you that we are living in an era where we continuously hear that we are finding it more and more and more difficult to focus our minds. Our attention spans are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. If you look at the data, look it up yourself. We've mentioned it before, like the attention spans are for millennials are higher than Gen Zs. Maybe the Gen Zs are higher than the alphas. Maybe not, because I think by the time the alphas are being raised, the parents became a little more careful about the impact of the digital distractions and so on and so forth. But nevertheless, we are living in an age where we say that we're continuously getting a dopamine burnout, so that things don't motivate us anymore, and it's hard for us to stay focused in day-to-day life, in the things that we have to do in day-to-day life. Now, think of what human beings are capable in contrast. So the average attention span of, say, a Gen Zer is supposed to be 8 seconds or something like that. In whatever they're doing, apparently they need a break after the 8 seconds. When I first started meditating, I was in my 20s. And after a few years, I left my university job and went to work for Quantum Foundation, which was like about 20 years ago. And at that point, there hadn't been so many studies on the impact of meditation, on the impact of mindfulness conducted in the West. In the last 2 decades, there has been lots and lots of meditation programs and lots of research that's been done. But at that time, 20 years ago, one of my first projects that I worked on when I joined the Quantum Foundation was to try to do sort of a list of research work that has been done on meditation. And Tonima was here today. Farah Sabrina, Quantum Pro Master, she also worked on that project. So at that time, when a lot of the research that were available were not necessarily from beginners, but also people who, like on Zen masters or yogis or Sufis who have really gone deep, got the opportunity to go deep into this pursuit of transcending the limitations of your own brain or your own mind. So one of the research studies that I saw back then, I learned about back then, was this researcher called T. Hiromi. And he studied the attention spans of Zen masters. Now, when we first do the quantum course, one of the things we do on attention is we take a watch, an analog watch with a second hand, which which makes a ticking sound as it's going around. We do this exercise where we try to keep our mind on the second hand for a whole minute, and we count every time our mind gets distracted. So we get distracted, I don't know, 20, 10, 20, 30 times during 1 minute. But in this research work that I found about the Zen masters, they found that Zen masters could keep their mind on something as mundane as the ticking of a clock, right? This is not something super exciting, right? You're not expecting something interesting to happen any second, right? So normally we tune out that sort of thing, right? Even if we want to, it's hard for us to not tune out. But the Zen masters, they could keep their minds on the keep their focus, keep their attention on the ticking of the clock for 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours without getting distracted even once. And I wanted to share this because I wanted to share the amazing powers of the human mind if you give yourself the chance. Because sometimes not sometimes, all the time, we get so limited by the truths in our surroundings, what people believe in this day and age, that we can't even think beyond that. But human beings have proved again and again that if you believe, if you know the right exercise, we can do things that most people think are impossible. So you don't need to be able to keep your mind on a ticking clock for 5 hours or 6 hours or 8 hours. But whatever improvement you can do, however you can enrich this power of being fully present, be keeping your mind in whatever you're doing, can completely turn your life around. Many of us, when we're meditating, right? So we these days, there is a lot of interest in manifestation, right? So everybody wants to manifest, right? So from everything from a specific person to lottery wins, which we don't necessarily encourage, but uh, nevertheless, but manifesting, one of the tools that you're using in manifesting is visualizing, right? We say, you are imagining with using your senses that something is really happening, and you want to imagine as if it's reality, and that human beings can do that. But the success of things like that also depends on your power of attention. If you can create a vision like that in your mind that feels like reality, and if you can keep your attention on that for some time, I mean, at first it might be just 2 seconds that it feels really real, then it might be 5 seconds, then it might be 8 seconds, then it might be like, it just feels like it's your reality. That power is also related to your power to keep your attention. Uh, your relationships, people say that love in action is attention. Love in action is attention. If you can listen to your child when they're talking really with 100% of your attention, if you are attuned to them, whether it's your child, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your political clients. Say you want to go into politics. What is the superpower? What's the superpower of the charismatic leaders? When they are with one person, that person feels like for that time, maybe they're with that person just for 1 minute, but for that 1 minute, they make that person feel like he or she is the only person in their world, right? So how do they do that? Because they have developed this ability to switch their attention and give their full undivided attention to that person. And that leaves, people can always tell from your eye movement, your body posture, everything, whether you're attuned to them or not, whether you have their attention or not, or you are just being polite and inside you're like tuning out, or you're thinking about something else, right? So if you do give them, there's no better gift than your 100% attention that you can give to a person, and you will absolutely leave a mark on that person. So that's relationship. Think about work. Think about when you study, or you are doing your research, or you are trying to write an essay or an application or a book, or something else. What happens if you can't focus your mind? It takes so much longer. Every time you get distracted, you have to come back, and it feels annoying. The experience is much less satisfying, obviously, but it's also the product of your efforts is poorer quality, right? So you are more likely to make mistakes. Your whatever you wrote uh, is a better quality the days you can focus better, right? And the days you can focus better, your attention kind of flows, right? So for every aspect of your life, and lastly, just your general experience of life, I have talked about research studies before, like studies that looked into, call the people and ask them what they were doing, and their life satisfaction, and whether their mind was on what they're doing or not. And they found out that regardless of what they're doing, even if it's something that is most people would consider like not a fun thing to do at all, people were much happier if their minds were in what they're doing. So being immersed in what you're doing is a very satisfying thing. And in fact, uh, one of the preeminent happiness theories given by Mihail Csikszentmihalyi, is about the being in the zone, and he talks about when people get totally immersed in what they're doing to the extent that they just forget about themselves and what will happen, they're the happiest. And they talked about, like, for an example, when Michelangelo was painting the Sistine Chapel, he would forget to eat. He would forget everything and just get completely immersed in what you're doing. And you've heard about players, athletes being in the zone, and so on and so forth. So I think I've made my case that this power to focus is really important. And if you can't now, it's absolutely fine. If you can't now, it's absolutely fine, because today we are giving you like a few tips, the most important tips, right? You don't need 15,000 tips, because you're not going to put those 15,000 tips into action. So let's go through some of the major things that you can do to start improving your attention today. Okay, so the number one is the thing that is we talk about a lot today, these days, so we're not going to focus too long on it, but you do need to minimize external distractions. Okay, you do need to minimize external distractions. um, what you need to do is you sort of think of what are the external distractions that usually break my concentration. So is it YouTube or Netflix, or is it work email, or is it my kids running up to me when I'm doing something? And you have to and not have to, sorry, I apologize, because you have the choice to not have to. You have the choice to you can choose to not avoid those distractions for a certain amount of time. So what what researchers are finding is useful is to time block, right? So time blocking is very similar to what in quantum we say making a routine. So the um what's very popular these days, more popular I would say, is just create a to-do list. Like a lot of people would do like a to-do list for the day or the week and say I have to do this, okay, click 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 click. But what researchers are finding is that it's better to say, okay, these 3 hours in the morning, and which are usually when I can focus most, or I can focus best, I will leave for the thing where I need most creativity for. Usually, if you're somebody who does some writing task, you know, usually writing tasks are um, they require the most, I would say, like the most amount of patience and creativity and I guess you could call self-discipline, or let's just say resourcefulness, inner resourcefulness. So uh, if you can block that time every day, or to the extent that you can, for that creative work, the most creative work you do. So for you, that time may be if like when you reach your office, if you or you may work from home. So it's like if so it may be like 8 to 11 or 8:30 to 10:30. Some people I know they wake up and then they block like very early hours, maybe from 5 or 6 to 7. So 5 to 7 or 7:30, or some people even do like 4 to 7, depending on what your sleep schedule is like. But don't miss your sleep, because that's super important for the most creative chunk. And then make sure that you have turned off all interruptions for that time, and sort of make a pact with yourself that you won't uh, give into your usual things, like whatever you external things you get distracted with. Then, like, you won't go into YouTube and start watching random videos, or Instagram, if Instagram your thing or whatever. Like, if you have to keep your phone away, or I don't know, turn the internet off if you're not don't need it for your writing task, and so on and so forth. uh, so blocking out times and try to block out the external triggers is external triggers is good. However, what really drives us to distraction is not just the external triggers, that we give in to those external temptations because of our inner discomfort with where we are. I mean, if this is this one thing that we can realize today, that can just change our lives completely. Human beings are biologically driven to escape from discomfort. But the discomfort we are feeling in these cases are mostly our own negative emotions. It's mostly boredom, or loneliness, or fear, or worry or anxiety or guilt or shame or some other thing that is actually not in our external environment but is within us, that is now in our system. It can be something that's being generated right now in response to what is going on in my life currently. It can be something that has been within you for 50 years, but it's still there, and it hasn't been processed, and it's rising, and you just don't want to face it, and your subconscious doesn't want to face it, and that's the number one reason we distract ourselves. That's why you're like, something's coming up, no, and you're not even thinking consciously. you know you might be writing, I'm like, you're just frustrated, like, oh, I can't do this, this is not coming, I'm just not good at it. So the most important thing about learning how to um, um, get more and more and more focused is to not be afraid of negative emotions. You have to realize that, not have to. I apologize because have to is not something that is very empowering for any of us. Um, the if we when we realize that negative emotions are very much a part of being human, and oftentimes they are way scarier than reality, we become ready to face negative emotions. And one thing, again, this I would say, like, if you can take one thing from today, take this one thing. When we are in the grip of a negative emotion, we think and act as if this is how we will always feel. When something negative is, we're feeling something negative, or we are interpreting a circumstance in a negative way, then we unconsciously think and act as if this is how it will always be. And it's not. So I'll give you some examples. So I was a little under the weather last 2-3 days. So I'm very fortunate. I typically don't get sick that often, but nothing serious, just a cold. But for some reason, I was feeling quite under the weather physically. Like, it was hard for me to do stuff. And I started feeling very anxious. I'm like, oh my God, I should maybe push myself more. If this is as if like this is how life is always going to be, and this is how I'll always feel, like, oh, I should push myself more. I should get up and do this, get up and do that, get up and do that. Like, I was feeling quite anxious about letting myself rest, because at that moment my mind is thinking, oh, probably this is how life is, and I have to function with these conditions. It was hard for me to accept, like, oh, I'll feel very different, and my motivation to do things will come back. So then I spent a day, just a day and a half like that, luckily, or maybe 2 days, and then from yesterday, I'm up on my feet, and I feel more like myself. I remember a friend of mine. So they were just a couple then, and they were like in a foreign country studying, and then her partner became very sick, and the partner became very sick, and it became quite negative about their life at that time, what they're doing, what they're pursuing, the degrees they're trying to attain, and so on and so forth. And my friend, she called me up, and she was asking me, like, I don't know if I can make this, like I can stay like this forever in this circumstance, because I'm having to handle everything, and he doesn't have any he doesn't have any motivation. He's not positive at all. He doesn't have any motivation to do well in the things that we're trying to do, etc., and so on and so forth. So it's very interesting. This is a long time ago, but it was I told her that, it sounds like you're kind of projecting this, like this is your new normal, and this is how life is going to be from now on. And you're trying to make a decision based on that, but this will not stay like this will change. And then she was like, oh, I mean, it's just so, she's a super smart woman, by the way, super smart, super woman. But we are all susceptible to these things because we are all human. So whenever a negative emotion arises, okay, emotions are like waves. Remember this, emotions are like waves. They come and they go down, they come and they go down. And uh, if you realize that emotions don't stay, and this is just an emotion, this is not some ultimate truth about life and reality, this is just an emotion you're experiencing at this moment, then that gives you the capacity, the courage to be not do things based on that emotion. The researchers today call it surfing the emotion, like ride your emotion, you let yourself feel it, but you do not need to act on the basis of it. This is what the same thing the Sufis used to say in a different way. They used to say, like, like, they're like birds, let them fly. Emotions are like birds, let them fly over your head. Just don't let them make nests inside your head, in your mind, your brain. So so realize emotions are like waves. Feel them, they will crest and they will subside. And if you are feeling if when you feel like very in the grip of an emotion, and especially if you're feeling, say you're in the middle of like a complicated writing task, and you just like, oh, I just can't deal with this anymore, um, I really need to go do something else. um, Tell yourself that, give yourself a time, like, I'll do this in 10 minutes. What that does is it reaffirms the fact that you always have a choice. It's one of the reasons we don't we find it very hard to follow the routines and stuff we set for ourselves, or say the rules. For example, we are trying to eat healthy, and we've decided we're not going to eat certain things, and we're going to eat certain things, or we're going to eat at certain times, and so on and so forth, is because we tell ourselves we have to. And your mind will always resist against the have to. It will make you feel powerless, it will make you feel trapped, it will make you feel confined. Have to is not a good thing to tell ourselves. It's always, again, researchers have seen this, like when we say, like, oh, I can choose to, I have the power to, I'm choosing to, when you do that, then you actually get much better at following the same rules that you set for yourself. So tell yourself, like, okay, sure, I want to go and watch some YouTube videos, but I'll do that after 10 minutes. I'll do that after 10 minutes. You will really can't, then say, okay, I'll do that after 5 minutes. What that does is like, it still makes you feel like you have the choice. Now, I have to say, like, in this case, I think it may be different for different things, and also for different people, how this rule works. For example, I am the kind of person, if I'm not eating sugar, and then if I say, like, I will let myself have sugar once a week or on the weekend, or if I said I'll let myself have sugar once a month. I do worse than when I like, okay, I'm giving up sugar. My mind does better with clear rules. I'm like, no, sugar is like, I've had enough sweet things in my life. And right now I've just given up white sugar. I still have like, lots of sugar substitutes like molasses, whatever. So it's not like I've like given up sweet from my life. I can still I've just given up white sugar. So it's like, it doesn't make me feel, um, like I went for, I don't know, 2 years or something like with zero sugar. And then I took a break, and the break continued and continued. Like, okay, yeah, okay, I'll extend my break a little bit. So for me, like breaks and like, once a month and once in the weekend is at least in that respect doesn't really work very well. The things I do, I actually do on a regular basis, like every single day I do. Those are the ones I'm better at sticking to. Like meditation, I just do every single day. I'm better at sticking to that. When I'm doing something every single day, I'm actually better at sticking to it. So for you, you have to decide whether for the thing that you are trying to avoid, whether a clean cut is good for you, or whether the clean cut is too much for you right now. Like if you're going to be like a vegetarian, give up something like, is that like making you super stressed, the prospect of never having this again, then okay, like use that rule, like give yourself like, okay, 10 minutes or 5 minutes, or okay, I'll wait till this time to do that, right? But try it out. A lot of researchers say that thing of giving yourself 10 minutes, giving yourself 5 minutes, reminds you that you still have agency, but then you can go back. Because the trick is to, when that urge to get distracted comes, ride that wave, and then without giving into that temptation, without taking the action to actually do something that you're not meant to do, and then go back to doing what you're doing, and then it will come, that the next wave will come after some time. You won't feel like that the whole time, so then you'll work for some time longer, and then if you can avoid the next time the urge comes to go back, then it can work for some time longer. So try to keep on doing that. One thing that's super 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 important is, do not judge yourself for being distracted or having the urge to get distracted. I have said this before, like shame is not a very useful emotion. Yes, maybe guilt or remorse, which is more about something you're doing. Of course, should all take responsibility for what we are doing, but we should never make ourselves small. When we make ourselves small for doing something, it actually increases the chances of us doing more negative things, or less more self-destructive things in the future, right? So shame doesn't really help. Always accept your humanity, understand that you're a human being and these are very human urges. Just be aware of it, take responsibility for it, and try to do better the next time. And then um, the final thing I want to say, and then I have like one little tip for parents, is um, um, sorry, excuse me. Okay, yeah, the final thing is, may sound like a super 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 obvious one to most people, but we actually like get stuck with the obvious things more than we'd like care to admit. And the thing is, have something that you mean to do during your time in the day. Distraction is only when you meant to do something, but then you're doing something else, that you are being distracted, right? But you'd have no clue what you want to do anyway. So then the question of distraction doesn't occur. So make that decision. And again, it's not easy for the human mind to make decisions, because some of us, we like to keep all options open all the time, and then we end up doing nothing. And or like sometimes some people like me were like waiting to be struck by inspiration or intuition or whatever. Well, intuition will strike you, but okay, I'm deviating a little bit, but I'll tell you. So we were visiting a lot of schools with my son, and at one, in many of the schools, they have like little quotes, and one of the quotes that both my husband and I liked a lot is by Pablo Picasso, and he said, this quote is, "Inspiration exists, but it needs to find you working. Inspiration exists, but it needs to find you working." Okay, so don't wait for the inspiration. You set a routine, like a loose routine, time block time for a few of the most important things. Don't make a perfect routine. Just try to get used to doing some things in an intentional way, spending your time in an intentional way, and spend the time the way you meant to spend the time. So get in the habit of doing that, and then you can say like, okay, am I in traction or am I in distraction? Traction is when you're building momentum towards the thing you wanted to do at that time. Distraction is when you're doing something when you've deviated from what you wanted to do. Okay, so try to from a pretty young age, try to spend your time in an intentional way, with, of course, times blocked out for free processing too, because you need to process things also, because that's when you do something and then you detach from it, that's when your mind is integrating all the things you just learned. So you need to take breaks too. So that was our final point. I have one last point for parents. Okay, so as a parent, what can you do to help your child um, learn how to focus well? And this was like something I learned. Again, I guess we like visiting schools or something. This was like a school we visited when my 11-year-old, when he was like, I think he was 5 years old or something. And we visited, at that time we thought we were living in Bangladesh, and we were planning to move to the US, in California. So we found a school where he could go with like really good, really amazing features. Anyway, we went to visit the school. It was like a proper Montessori school. A lot of the Montessori schools you see are Montessori inspired, but not proper Montessori. In that, the students really get to do what they're interested in. So the students, they don't have any routine. So they just have things in front, and the students choose. But that school, for some reason, their system works so well that by the time like a little boy or little girl was 7 years old or 8 years old, or maybe even 6 years old, they could focus on one project for an hour and a half or something, which is unbelievable, because like people say 4-year-old, 5-year-olds, they spend like 5 minutes. Their attention span is 5 minutes or something. So how did they do it? Well, first of all, they let you follow your interests. But here's the second thing. As a parent, when you see your child really immersed in something, and children usually do, children usually, they have something or other that they love. Like my 5-year-old, she just likes like cutting and drawing and gluing together or taping together or stapling together, and he makes lots of things. uh, when you see your child immersed in something, try not to interrupt them. Because that's when like they're kind of going into the zone, and you want to get their brain habituated with going into the zone. Okay, so if you see that they remember, like, because as moms, or parents, can often be like, hey, yeah, come, no, it's time to eat, into this, time to that, of course, and we have to time to go to school, we have to get all the things done. I completely understand and empathize with that. However, if you have the chance, if you see like, okay, he's doing something, maybe he'll be done in 3 minutes, he will get to a natural pause. Please let him or her get to that natural pause, because that's when the brain is like getting used to, as I said, habituated to being in the zone. Okay. And of course, the other things we already know, that we keep distractions, keep digital devices to a minimum, and so on and so forth, and try to do same things at the same time. But this extra tip I wanted to give is like, don't please don't interrupt them when you see that they're really immersed in something. And I'm not talking about TV. I'm talking about something that they're actually doing themselves, because one of the most beautiful things in life, is to be completely immersed in something. And that's what they probably love, and that's what we should nurture. Anyway, so that was our topic for today. I hope you got some good insights from it. It's really one of life's superpowers to be able to focus. And it really uh, if we can attain certain levels of focus, that can really change our lives. Okay, so that was our talk for today. I am going to start the meditation. We're doing Shiti Lion, easy relaxation again today. When you're in quantum home, let whatever emotions come just come up, and just see if you can surf the emotion, if you can let the bird fly over your head without being stuck in it, or being in it grip, or thinking that this will last forever and I need to make a decision based on this right now. See if you can get in the habit of just feeling your feelings until they subside. All right. As always, please give me a second and let me know in the chat if you have any trouble hearing the meditation.